Hello friends, I am Dr. Lakshmi Gayatri. In this video, I am going to discuss about the cranial dura mater, dural folds and its clinical anatomy. The brain and the spinal cord are enveloped by three connective tissue membranes or meninges, which are named from outside inwards as dura mater, arachnoid mater and pia mater. These meninges primarily support and protect the soft tissues of the brain and the spinal cord. Hence, they are named by the word mater, which means mother. In this diagrammatic representation, we can see the exposed brain after removing the vault of the skull. On studying a small segment of the brain tissue along with its covering vault, we can see so many layers of tissue heaped up over the brain tissue. From outwards, the brain is covered by the scalp tissue. Below the subaponeurotic layer of the scalp, the periosteum covering the vault of the skull is appreciated. On the inner surface of calvaria, the three meningeal layers are arranged. The outermost is cranial dura, which is bilayered. The outer is endosteal layer. The inner is the meningeal layer. Both are closely related except in few places where they are separated. The middle layer being the cranial arachnoid mater, which has its extensions as the arachnoid granulations into the dural venous sinuses, which I'll explain it later. The innermost is the pia mater, closely investing the brain tissue. The space where the endosteal and meningeal dura are separated contains the dural venous sinuses. In this picture, I'll give you still more detailing about the cranial meninges. The dura mater, also called as pachymeninx, is a thick non-elastic fibrous membrane. In the cranial cavity, the dura possesses outer endosteal layer and inner meningeal layer. The endosteal layer acts as inner periosteum of the skull bones, and hence consequently the extradural space is absent in the cranial cavity. At the foramen magnum, the endosteal layer is attached to its margins, while the meningeal layer continues with the spinal dura. Hence, there is an epidural space formed in the spinal dura mater between the vertebral bone and the dura. This favors to perform procedures like epidural anesthesia. The endosteal and the meningeal layer are closely adherent to each other except in few places where it is separated. The separations are occupied by the dural venous sinuses. The dural venous sinuses are found only in the cranial dura. Along the line of separations, the inner meningeal layer of cranial dura forms four inward projections or process called as falx cerebri, tentorium cerebelli, falx cerebelli and diaphragma sella. They divide the cranial cavity into interconnecting compartments. Such dural folds are absent in the spinal dura. The next membrane is the arachnoid mater, which is separated from the dura mater by the subdural space. It presents arachnoid granulations, which are fleshy macroscopic elevations that project into the superior sagittal sinus. The innermost layer is a thin vascular pia mater, which invests the surface of the brain and lines each and every indentations like fissures and sulci. Between the pia and the arachnoid mater, the space is called as subarachnoid space, which is filled with the cerebrospinal fluid. So these are some of the general features of the cranial meninges. The dural folds are falx cerebri, tentorium cerebelli, diaphragma sella and falx cerebelli. Now we will concentrate on the attachments of the dural folds, its contents, the nerve supply, blood supply and its clinical anatomy. Before knowing the attachment of the dural folds, we need to know about the bony landmarks in the interior of the skull. Frontal crest of frontal bone, the crista galli of ethmoid bone, in the body of the sphenoid. This is the anterior clinoid process, middle clinoid process, posterior clinoid process, tuberculum sella anteriorly, dorsum sella posteriorly, and sella turcica. In the temporal bone, This is the upper border of the petrous part of the temporal bone. Along the inner surface of the occipital bone, this is the central occipital crest, internal occipital protuberance. Bilaterally from the internal occipital protuberance, the transverse sulcus passes laterally. Now we will see the attachment of all the dural folds and how they are disposed in the interior of the skull. The falx cerebri derives its name from its sickle shape. It forms a vertical partition in the longitudinal fissure between the cerebral hemispheres. It has a superior convex margin and an inferior concave margin, and an anterior end and the posterior end. Anteriorly, it is attached to the frontal crest of the frontal bone and crista galli of ethmoid bone. Superiorly, it is attached to the midline sagittal sulcus of the vault of the skull. Inferiorly, its lower free margin is concave in the anterior part and is attached to the tentorium cerebelli in the midline posteriorly. The superior convex margin contains the superior sagittal sinus. The inferior sagittal sinus is present in its free inferior margin or the concave margin. Straight sinus is present along its line of attachment to the tentorium cerebelli. The tentorium cerebelli is a tent-shaped fold of dura mater which roofs the posterior cranial fossa. It forms a partition between the cerebellar lobes below and the occipital lobes of the cerebrum above. Coming to its attachment, the tentorium cerebelli has an attached margin and an inner free margin. The outer attached margin is attached anteriorly to the posterior clinoid process, laterally to the superior margin of petrous temporal bone, and posteriorly to the mastoid angle of parietal bone and the lips of the transverse sulcus on the inner surface of the occipital bone. On the posterior aspect, the upper surface of the tentorium cerebelli is attached to the inferior margin of the falx cerebri, and in the inner surface, it is attached to the falx cerebelli. The inner free margin encircles an opening called tentorial notch. The anterior ends of the free margin are attached to the anterior clinoid process. The free and attached margins of the tentorium cerebelli cross each other near the apex of the petrous temporal bone. Coming to its contents, the superior petrosal sinus is located along the line of attachment to the superior margin of the petrous temporal bone. The transverse sinus is located along the attachment of the lips of the sulcus of transverse sinus on the occipital bone, and the straight sinus is located along its line of attachment to the falx cerebri. The U-shaped tentorial notch or the tentorial incisura gives passage to the midbrain and the posterior cerebral arteries. Considering the diaphragma sella, which is a circular dural fold which forms the roof of the hypophyseal fossa, this dural fold is attached to the tuberculum sella in front and dorsum sella behind. It is pierced by the infundibulum of the pituitary gland. It encloses the anterior and the posterior intercavernous sinuses along its attached margins, and on either side it contains the roof of the cavernous sinuses. Lastly, the falx cerebelli lies in the posterior cranial fossa. It is attached to the inferior surface of the tentorium cerebelli and to the internal occipital crest. It contains the occipital sinus. The tentorium cerebelli divides the cranial cavity into a supratentorial compartment containing the forebrain and the infratentorial compartment containing the hindbrain. The dura mater lining the supratentorial compartment of the cranial cavity receives its rich sensory innervation from the trigeminal nerve. The anterior cranial fossa and the anterior part of the skull vault is supplied by the ophthalmic branch, while that lining the middle cranial fossa and the mid-region of the vault is supplied by the nervus spinosus. The upper cervical nerves, entering through the foramen magnum, supplies the dura mater lining the infratentorial compartment. Numerous arteries supply the dura mater in the cranial cavity, the most important being the middle meningeal artery, which is usually damaged in head injuries. Other arteries supplying the cranial dura mater are the branches of anterior and posterior ethmoidal arteries, ophthalmic artery, internal carotid artery, ascending pharyngeal artery, occipital and vertebral arteries. The venous blood of the dura mater is drained into the dural venous sinus. Functionally, the outermost layer, the dura mater, is very tough and serves to protect the underlying nervous tissue. The dura protects the cranial nerves by covering it for a short distance when it passes through the foramina of the skull. It also provides each spinal nerve root with a protective covering. Between the cerebral hemispheres, the falx cerebri forms a vertical sheet of dura, while the tentorium cerebelli forms a horizontal sheet that protects forward between the cerebrum and the cerebellum. Both serves to limit the excessive movements of the brain within the skull. Now let's discuss some clinical anatomy of the dura mater. A severe blow to the side of the head causing a fracture at the pointerion may cause tearing of the anterior branch of the middle meningeal artery. The arterial blood gets accumulated between the periosteal dura and the skull, and such condition is called as epidural or extradural hemorrhage. Mostly, the fracture of the skull occurs during head injury caused by road traffic accident, fall or due to assault. Patient clinically manifests with loss or altered consciousness, headache, vomiting, confusion, seizures, motor disabilities due to pressure effects. The point to be noted is, in extradural hemorrhage, the source of blood is often arterial in nature. Another type of condition called as subdural hemorrhage may also occur due to severe head injuries with the same causative events like that of the extradural hemorrhage. The accompanying skull fracture will cause tearing of the bridging veins crossing the arachnoid mater. Hence, blood gets accumulated between the dura mater and the arachnoid mater, that is in the subdural space, and such condition is called as subdural hemorrhage. The source of blood is mostly venous in nature in this condition. Patient will manifest with loss of consciousness mostly. 50% patients may go in for coma and even death may supervene. The other manifestations will be the same as that of the extradural hemorrhage. In both the cases, the dural irritation occurs due to the blood and hence headache is most commonly found. CT and MRI findings detect lens or biconvex shaped epidural hemorrhage, while subdural hemorrhage seems to be crescent shaped. Brain is generally insensitive to pain. Some form of headaches may occur due to the irritation of the dura mater or may be due to the inflammation of the dura mater in conditions like meningitis or cerebral tumors. The localization of the dural headaches may be different depending upon the causative factor. In meningitis, there will be generalized inflammation of the meninges. The rich sensory nerve supply given to the dura mater by the trigeminal nerve and the upper cervical nerves will be affected. Hence, the headache will be presented all over the head, including the back of the neck, in case of meningeal headaches. But the case scenario is totally different in case of cerebral tumors. The presentation of the headache will be localized depending upon the location of the cerebral tumor, because the sensory nerves which is supplying in that area of the cerebral tumor only will be affected, which causes dural irritation, and thereby the dural headaches due to cerebral tumor are generally localized. Falx cerebelli and tentorium cerebelli generally stabilize the brain in the cranial cavity. But any space occupying lesion in the brain will cause mass effect and increased intracranial tension, which causes the brain to herniate. Hence, in case of supratentorial space occupying lesion, there will be transtentorial uncal herniation, while an infratentorial space occupying lesion will cause cerebellar vermis to herniate. Such transtentorial coning will cause compression of the oculomotor nerve, midbrain and the posterior cerebral artery.